In this video, I'm going to be going through the Page Designer extension in Airtable and showing how you can design and generate PDF documents using it. I'll give you a full walkthrough of the Page Designer extension, the canvas, the various elements you can add, and then some bonus tips and tricks as well on generating your PDFs. Before we get into actually building out our PDF in Page Designer, I just want to briefly go through the database setup we have here in Airtable. You'll see we have one table here called invoices, and we have the customer name, the address, invoice number, grand total, which is actually a roll-up field, and then really importantly, this line items field, which is a linked record, and it links to this line items table here. Let me just refresh that to show it. And yeah, you can see there we have a bunch of line items, name, price, quantity, and total, and we're going to be displaying these in an invoice. In order to launch Page Designer, you're going to need to go to Tools, Extensions, add an extension, and then as of the time of recording, Page Designer is a featured extension, so it should show up here. If it doesn't, it's an Airtable extension, so it's also going to be in this tab here, and that's where I'm going to add it from. You'll see here we need to provide some details right away, and the first key piece of information Page Designer needs is what table we're linking this to. And I was on the line items table, so that's what's showing up, but what I actually want to link it to is the invoices table, because that's where, you know, my customer name, the invoice number, and the linked line items are going to be referenced from. You can choose the record size. I'm going to stick with letter, but you can choose another option if you'd like. And again, orientation, I'm going to go with portrait for now. And you'll see here we have a mixture of static elements and then fields from our table that we can drag onto our canvas. If I drag a text element, like you'd expect, you can edit what type of text appears. So I'm just going to type in invoice. I'm going to change the weight. I'm going to change the font size to 24, and then you will need to kind of just drag it out so everything's visible. Let's even make it 36. Our other static element is our image. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a logo in here on the top right. Let's move this down a bit. And in order to add an image, there is a bit of work involved here. It'd be nice if there was just like an upload field you could use to upload a static image, but you'll see here we actually need to reference an image URL. So there's a couple of ways to do this. The first is literally just to grab a URL from the web. So I'm going to open up a website here. So this is one of my websites, and you'll see if I right click on the image and open the image in a new tab, we could then copy that URL and paste it in here. And that would work, but you can also reference images that are saved down to your Airtable base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that URL. I'm going to click Done Editing for now. And you'll see here I have another table called Utilities. And in this Utilities table, literally all we have is a couple of images. We have one blank image here, and then we also have this logo, which is actually the same logo I referenced on the website a minute ago. But what we can do is we can open this up. You can simply upload it by just, clicking Add Attachment and uploading from your computer. But then once we open it up, I can once again open Image in New Tab, and you'll see we have an Airtable URL here. We can again copy that, go back to our Page Designer, this way, click on Edit Layout, and then paste the URL in there. Let's just change the width and height of that. Yeah, happy enough with how that looks. So those were our two static elements. But let's say we want to put in some data from our Airtable table. You'll see here if I drag customer name, that's actually the name of the first record in my invoices table, John Doe. But if I click on next record, you'll see that automatically changes to Mary Doe, Frank Doe, Louise Doe, and Emile Doe. So that's a nice way of just being able to pull in data from your Airtable table. Now, it's actually not the only way we can reference data from our our database. What we can do instead is we could actually just get another text element. And let's say I wanted to put in bill 2 and then the customer name. What I could actually do is use this syntax here that Airtable provides, the curly brace, customer name, close the curly brace, and then if we expand this down, you'll see we're once again pulling it in. And if I go to the previous record, that updates. So that's another way of referencing kind of dynamic data, I suppose, from your table. One thing to note here is this is really sensitive to the exact spelling of the column in your table. So if I change this to like a lowercase n, it wouldn't work. It must match exactly what you have in your table. Let me just change the formatting of this a bit. What I might do as well is just add in address, because I know that's another column I have. And let's make this a bit bigger. So if we go up here, let's change the font size to 18. And happy enough with that. Okay, now we're designing an invoice here. That's what we want to create a PDF of. And obviously the core of that is going to be the line items. So let's just go back to our table for a second. You can see here each record is linked to this line items record here. So John Doe, for example, his invoice is going to have 2 items, whereas Louise Doe's, hers is going to have, I think, 6 different items. So we're going to have a variable amount of line items for each of our invoices. Okay, let's go back to our page designer and let's drag in that line items field there. And you can see straight away, it's quite nice. Airtable is actually, or the page designer, I should say, is actually creating a table for us. And table is the default mode when you drag in, linked records. You can also, if you want, use list or this inline mode, which is kind of like a string. I do want to use table. Let me just update the font. We can update the styling by going to heading style here, changing the font size to 18. And we're going to do similar for the row style. Okay, that's useful. But now we obviously want to add more than just the name. So what we're going to add as well is we're going to scroll down here once we've selected the table, and we're going to click on add column. We're going to add in the price of the product. We're going to add in the quantity, and we're going to add in the total. So now we have something that looks much more like an actual table that you would see in an invoice. We are missing the grand total, but thankfully we've already used that in our table. It's a roll-up field, so it's taking the sum of this and this. And if we drag this in, we should get 1100, which we are. Let's just change that font size to match. Bring that here. Make it a bit smaller. And let's also grab a static text element here so that we can say grand total, and again change the font. Let's change the weight of the grand total as well, just to highlight it. Change that to 600 and change that to 600 too. Now this is where we start to run into a bit of a limitation of Page Designer. So there are actually a bunch of limitations with Page Designer that really doesn't make it suitable for every use case. One frustrating one is that, okay, we have 2 line items for John Doe, but you may remember from our table, we have certain invoices where we have 3, 4, 5, even 6 records, or 6 line items in one case. And if I click on next record, this is fine because, again, only one, so it's, pretty much formatted like you'd expect. Move that there. But if we go on to the next one, that's Frank. I think he has 2. Yeah, that's okay as well. This is where things start to get a bit messy because Louise, though, she actually has 6 line items. But you can see that the table isn't automatically expanding to accommodate all of the line items. So what we kind of need to do is we basically need to move this down here, move this down to the end, make this big enough so it can accommodate, up to 6. Go down a bit more. And then we're just going to have to accept the pain of having this big gap for the other ones, unless we want to redo it every time. So yeah, this is a bit of a painful limitation of Page Designer, but it's just the way it's designed at the moment, unfortunately. Okay, but let's say you've set everything up and you want to create a PDF of your document. What you need to do is click on Print, and then you can choose either the current record or records in a specific view. And then you can set, the paper size and orientation. I would recommend keeping them the same as they were when you initially set the page up. You don't want to mix and match too much, or the formatting might look a bit different. But then we're going to click on Print. And the default option here is actually usually going to be, whatever printer you have hooked up. I actually was already testing this out, which is why Save as PDF was the default for me. But when I click on Save as PDF, I'm going to get that saved down to my computer. And then I can open it up. And there you go. We have our nicely formatted PDF. You could obviously do a bunch of things in terms of the styling and how it's laid out. But yeah, that's how you generate a PDF with Page Designer. Okay, I want to give some kind of advanced tips, tricks, and other things to consider when designing PDFs with Page Designer. The first thing is, okay, we may wish to include this PDF in our actual table. So if we click on Done Editing, and let's go back to our invoices table. Let's say we had another field here, an attachment field, and we called it PDF. Ideally, you might actually want the output PDF to be uploaded to this field here. Unfortunately, there's no way to do this with Page Designer. The only way is to literally click into the record you designed a PDF for, click Add Attachment, and upload it manually that way. And then it's going to appear in our PDF field. So look, that is doable. And if you're not creating too many documents, it is something you can do, but it's obviously quite painful if you want to create PDFs in bulk. There are a number of apps that let you create PDFs in a more automated way in Airtable, and I'm going to show you one now. And what I'm going to show you is one we've developed called DocuPotion. And what you're looking at here is the DocuPotion template editor. And it's actually really similar to the Page Designer. You have this canvas here where you can drag and drop elements. You have a bunch of components. And then once you're happy with everything, you save down your template and you go to the integrations tab of the template editor, click on Airtable, and then you need to fill out some fields here, but it's really easy. The first one is the URL of the Airtable table that you're generating the PDF from. That's going to be our invoices table. So I'm going to copy that, paste it in here. The next one is the PDF attachment field. So that's the name of the field that we're going to attach the PDFs to. In our case, again, that's simply PDF. And then we can choose whether we want to override existing attachments or just allow multiple. I'm happy to leave that unchecked for now. If you want more detailed instructions, they're up here, and even more detailed instructions here in this quick start guide. But for now, let's just generate our script. And now what we have is this Airtable automation script. And this is going to let us automatically generate PDFs when we trigger a checkbox or meet some other condition. So what I'm going to do is back in Airtable, I'm going to go to Automations. I'm going to add a trigger, and the trigger is going to be when a record matches condition. And now I mentioned the checkbox a second ago. What I'm going to do to trigger this automation is I'm going to add another field over here. It's going to be a checkbox. I'm going to call it Generate PDF. I'm going to leave it unchecked by default. But what that means is when, I'm going to select the invoices table first, but when checkbox or generate PDF is checked, then we're going to run our automation. And what we're going to do for our advanced logic or action is we're going to choose run script. And this is where DocuPotion makes it super easy. You just need to go copy this script here, paste it in to our code editor. And then one really important thing you need to do is you need to click on add input variable, and you need to call this exactly record underscore ID, and we need to link it to the Airtable record ID that we're actually using to trigger the automation. So that's a really important step. Click on finish editing, and then let's turn it on. And now when we go back to our data tab, let's check this generate PDF checkbox. It might take a bit longer the first time you run it, but if while you click that, you click on automations and you click on history, you should see here that it's in progress. So that automation is running at the moment. And if we even expand it out, we should see that the condition was met. It's now running the script and it's waiting for DocuPotion to create the PDF and upload it to Airtable. And you can see here that has run successfully. If we go back to our data tab, we should now see a PDF being uploaded to this field. And if we open it up, we have our nicely formatted PDF. You could do some more styling around putting a $sign in front in order to make this look, more like an actual currency, but that's the general idea. And the nice thing is, if we want to create a load straight away, we can just check, 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 check. And if we give it a few seconds, we should see PDFs being uploaded to all of these fields. So you can see one is coming through there, and then all the remaining ones as well. You can see because we unchecked this option here, we're getting multiple PDFs in the same cell. And I also want to point out the table. So in our editor, we have our table, our dynamic table component. But what's nice about this is it automatically adjusts based on how many rows are in it. So if I open up this one here, you might remember this was our original PDF, and we had to kind of forcibly kind of expand it. But if we look at this one, you'll see here the total is right below the 6 cells. But then if we go to another one that has only 2, the total is right below that as well. So this table kind of automatically expands and contracts based on how many rows are in it. I won't spend any more time on DocuPotion, but if you are interested in trying it out, I would recommend checking out the documentation. There's, plenty of Airtable specific documentation, and then also on the template editor in general and how to use it. So I hope this video has been useful in terms of learning how to design PDFs with Page Designer, some of the limitations, and then DocuPotion as an alternative.